Okay. Now, we spent the last 2 days doing things a little bit unusually. It's a slightly different, in a slightly different way. And I asked you at the end of the class on Monday, what did not happen? And again, I'll ask you, we all got up in front of each other and told about us, some of us even, quite personally, explaining some stuff about us in front of each other. And the question that I'll raise for you again is, what did not happen?
Judgment.
Judgment. What do you mean? Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, just maybe we're all pretty open to everybody, and I don't think anybody was judging anyone.
Okay, and somebody might have been. I'm sure, actually, I'll bet we were all judging. It may not have been necessarily harsh judgments, but I know everyone was evaluating each other in a certain way. But what did you not know about those judgments when you were speaking? What did you not know? Or what wasn't happening as far as you knew? Diana.
I thought about this right after class, and I was thinking when I was up there, I was pretty mindful about where I was. So I wasn't thinking about anything else other than
being in that moment.
Being in that moment, which, you've asked us this question, or you've posed this question to us, or you've asked us to be mindful and kind of stay in that moment. So I take that with me through these moments, and even though it's, kind of maybe threatening to be up in front of a group, it still was, it kind of seemed like a natural thing to share and stay in that focus.
Okay.
So I wasn't thinking about anything else other than...
Okay, by being mindful, you didn't have such reservations or sensations of threat when you were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
At first it was just being up there, you're like a little shaky, depending on where you're at in that day,
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. Tara?
Another part of it is we were all kind of making ourselves vulnerable because we all had to share. And so...
Didn't have to.
Well...
But you chose to, right?
Well, I'm talking about the first day.
The first day. Oh, okay, the first day.
Yeah.
So even then you didn't have to. Technically, you could have just stayed, sat down. You don't have to do anything.
Sweet.
I asked you to, and so you did. But you don't have to do anything under the sun. There's consequences. But you chose to. But so what you were saying, since we all had to or chose to do it, then what were you thinking?
It was kind of like, well, you can judge me, but in a couple minutes I get to judge you too.
You're all in the same boat, kind of thing. Okay? That's an interesting thought that makes it more assuring, more comforting.
Exactly.
Good. You were just stretching?
Well,
What do you think?
There's actually a couple things that I noticed. One of the things that did not happen was you didn't explain why we did it.
No, I didn't.
Number two was that none of the judgments were verbalized. And so,
Okay.
kind of like what everyone's kind of saying, but none of them were verbalized.
And since they weren't verbalized, what was the result in as far as you knew about those judgments? Didn't happen. Unless you made up stuff. See, when you were sitting there waiting to go, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go next. Right? What are the thoughts that you noticed yourself having, which is, it's not bad. It's just tapes that we have that keep running over and over for whatever reason. What are the thoughts that you had about the judgments that people were going to have about you? And then when you got up there, What happened, Diana?
I was thinking, how deep do I want to take this? What do I want to say? Like how...
And why would you want to censor it?
For judgments, I guess. Maybe for my own judgments too. Having to verbalize something that maybe is quite important or life-altering puts you out there. But it's also a good release to kind of say things out loud.
Is that the case for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a release? I mean, you had a deeper experience. Here, go ahead, Maggie.
I just found, and I don't know if it's because I went at the beginning, but I was able to be completely in the moment and listen to whoever was speaking. And that's hard for me anyways, but lately, because there's just so much going on in my mind that I am like 50 different places from every thought to every thought, and I was just completely focused on what anybody was saying, and I don't know if it's because they were opening up and being, they were sharing something important to them, and I was able to stay in the moment and listen to exactly what was saying and not go somewhere else. But throughout the whole hour, I was just able to be there and listen.
Okay.
I wasn't distracted, and I thought that was cool for me.
And it did help that it was very interesting what everyone was saying. Everyone was saying cool stuff about themselves or interesting things about themselves. The thing that I want to also, and these are all accurate, these are all great insights. The thing that I want to pose for you here is, the number one social fear in this country is what?
Public speaking.
It's public speaking. Some say they would rather die or do all kinds of other things that seemingly pain than get in front of a group of people and say stuff. It's not such a, I think in our culture, that's not quite so dominant. But yet the idea of being in front of a group of people and being afraid needs to be looked at. If that's the number one fear, and all the other fears are less than that. But when we think about fear, what is the thought that precedes the emotion of fear? Every time.
Pain.
Pain what? Go expand on that.
But for that specific example,
For any fear that you have, what is the thought that you construct in your head that leads to the fear? And here's how I visualize fear. When we have something that we'd kind of like to do or feel like we ought to do or feel even forced to do, Tara said, if we have that that motivation, and then this wall steps in front of us called fear, and it keeps us from going for that which we want. That's fear. Okay? Every time you fear something, you place a big wall between you and the thing that you're wanting to have, or get, or do, or be. It gets in the way. So what is the thought? If fear is an emotion, what is the thought that precedes it?
Uncertainty.
Okay, and what is inherent in that uncertainty, probably?
Embarrassment. And I say, I was just thinking what I was thinking when I was waiting to have my turn, and that was, what if? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make myself more vulnerable?
And if you say the wrong thing, then what is the next thought? That you're going to get hurt somehow. And fear is the decision to avoid that hurt, or not go for what you want because that hurt is in the way, and you don't want the hurt more than you want the thing you want. Does that make sense? Think about anything that you go, and I'm not talking about cliff diving or going, jumping out of an airplane, those kind of fears, there's some fears that are very rational, it's okay to have. If you're not a good cliff diver, don't go cliff diving. There's pain in the physical sense is the fear of that kind of pain is a worthwhile thing. That's not what we're talking about here. But it's the fears that stop us from going after the things we want or doing the things we want to do or being the kind of people we think we can be because of the made-up fears that are like the made-up fears of standing in front of a group of people. The thing that didn't happen for anybody here is nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt. I didn't see a single person, even when you were talking about your own and most embarrassing moments. Some of them were pretty, revealing. Still, nobody got hurt. So why in the world would we ever fear something for which ultimately we never do get hurt when doing it?
I think a lot of times, especially people you don't know, you don't want them to know what you're not good at or something that you've done that isn't your best self, or you try to portray yourself as the best or the perfect self, and in front of a group of strangers especially, you reveal your least perfect point in your life. What are they going to think of me? What's their impression? Are they going to think poorly of me? Are they not going to? I don't know. You just automatically jump to the worst about yourself and what they're going to think about you.
Okay.
Instead
That's
of
interesting.
with people or family or something, sometimes you can laugh about it because they know you at your best and at your worst. And so sometimes it's easier to share something like that.
Good. That points at something that I want to explore that is not on this page.
I think a lot of things that we fear are we're taught to fear them. Like we're taught to this fighters, are scary or public speaking is scary. And so I think that it's the thought that makes things scary, that makes us afraid.
Yeah. We're trained that this or that is going to maybe hurt us. It never does.
That's what we're
We
taught.
still think that.
Right. So that like for public speaking, for example, they always talk about how scary it is, how your voice gets shaky, you get the butterflies in your stomach. So when you go to experience that for the first time, that's what you.
So you reinforce that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what you feel because that's
Okay.
what you're taught to feel.
I want to, we may be taking longer on this than I was planning, but I want to explore an idea that I think absolutely runs our lives. This thought runs, and for some people, it is every waking moment of their lives, this is the thought that runs their lives. And it's the biggest evil that I can think of under the sun. It's the one thing that if we could take this out of our frontal lobes, it would be the solution. It would fix everything, not everything, but it would fix most things emotionally related. And this is it. This is the question that we constantly ask ourselves. That drives so many things that we do. Analyze if that's accurate. Well, should I wear those clothes today? I don't know. It might look dumb to people. Should I wear that hat today? Well, will people laugh at me if I wear that? I don't know. I guess not. Okay, I'll wear it. If I, should I get my hair cut shorter than this? Because if I get it bald, then they'll really laugh at me. What are they going to think when I get up there and say that I was really lonely. What are they going to get at? What are they going to think when I say, you know, that this terrible thing happened to me? Or I did this most embarrassing thing. Can you see? I mean, just analyze your own experience, your own thoughts, and say, is that accurate? It has to be for everything that we fear, not the physical, you know, gonna hurt yourself, don't cliff dive things, but, you know, think about you're calling up somebody on a date, and you're not so hot, and you think she's really hot, but you want to ask her out anyway. Oh man, what if she says no? What if she says yes? What if now? If she says yes, then I'll have to do. If she says no, then I'll. And you call her up, and she says, "Get lost, jerk." Oh man, now she's going to tell other people, and holy cow! Now, can you see the things we do in our heads? And the reality is, she said some words. And what you do with it is entirely up to you. You have a choice in the matter with what you do with it. But this drives us. What are they going to think? Is that accurate?
My
Diana?
son turns 11 tomorrow, so he's in a new school, and he's not connecting well with people in his class. He's in 5th grade, and had a broken arm for like the first couple of weeks of school. So it kind of limited him on connecting with my, or so he told me. So we put together a little candy bag. He said, "What do you want to do for your class, you know, treat?" And he said, "Well, let's do candy." And then I said, "Oh, let's do candy bags." And, you know, I get excited about, okay, we'll stuff this candy because it's around Halloween-ish, and we'll make it cute and Halloweeny. And I said, "Oh, look at these. They're little spiders or bugs, little plastic." I said, "Let's throw that." And he's like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, maybe that's not, I don't know if they'd like that." I said, "It's just fun. It's boys, girls, 5th grade. It'll be fun." "Oh, okay. So let's do those." So I put them in, then on the way to school, I said, "I hope you have a great day, and that should be so fun." And he said, "Well, the boys will probably like it, and they'll, you know, try to chase the girls around."
You can see how he's processing how other people are thinking.
The girls might throw it away. I said, "Oh, well." And he goes, "Why are you saying that? You just bought it and spent your money. That would make me mad." I said, "Ian, it's just a gift. We're giving it. They can do whatever they want. They can receive it however they want. But stay in the moment of, I'm having a fun time, and this is my birthday, and I'm giving. Don't worry about how they're going to receive it." Because he's like now torturing himself, basically coming back to the, I'm not good enough. This isn't going to work. They're not going to like it, and that'll make me mad. And I'm like, you are creating this mess, and he's doing it a lot right now. It's pushing my buttons because I can see where I've done it, and so I'm like, did I pass this crap on?
Well, that's the way every single person does it. It's not a. I mean, as you listen to that, I mean, I was thinking of 4 different instances as you were saying that where that similar kind of mental constructing took place yesterday at my house. And I'll bet the rest of us did too. Now, what is the problem with this question? What's the single most obvious problem with that question?
It has nothing to do what you want or what you feel or what you like, but what everybody else does. They.
Okay.
They is the big problem.
Hadn't thought of that one. So you're relegating your own desires to, well, what somebody else might desire of me.
If like, say Taylor brought dark chocolate candy bars to pass out this morning, and I hate dark chocolate and I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going to hate Taylor or think that she's weird for liking dark chocolate. I'm just going to say, "Thanks, Taylor," and I'll either throw it away or save it and give it to somebody who likes dark chocolate. I'm not going to think less of Taylor. But I'm sure when she was at the store, what should I buy? What would everybody like? If I buy this, some people might not like this. If I buy something with nuts, somebody might be allergic. I mean, anytime you do anything, at least I do, I'm thinking of all the possibilities. But if you're bringing something you like, Doesn't mean everybody else has to like it.
You're lucky if 50% like it, most things.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an interesting idea. That's not the one I was thinking of, but that's an obvious one. You can't expect everyone to accept what you say.
I was just going to say, I think a big part of it is the word think, because, you know, it's like it doesn't really matter what other people think just because they think something. Does it hurt you? Does it do anything to you? No.
Okay?
That's what they think.
And going a little deeper than that, how can you know? How can you possibly know? The only way you can possibly know is how? What, Andrea?
If they say it.
Yeah, ask them. What do you think of my dark chocolate? I don't like it very much. Okay, now I got your opinion. Everything else, see, until you ask somebody, when you were standing up here in front of the group, here or back there, everyone was making judgments of you. It's impossible not to. Wow, that's a cute shirt you're wearing. Wow, you speak very well. Oh, that must have been quite an emotional experience you had. Judgments. We can't get away from those. But you couldn't hear any of them. There is no way that you would have known that somebody liked your shirt unless you ask her, do you like my shirt? Oh, I guess it was a good shirt to wear then today. If you like, and that's kind of going in the face of what Maggie just said. I don't care what you think of my shirt. But we want to think, oh, I gotta please other people. And you can't possibly know if you are. And this still, I bet you bucks, when you were taking a shower today, you thought it's a good idea to take a shower because I might stink around people and people might, right? You're thinking what other people are, you're putting in your heads what other people are trying to think about you. It drives us. Go ahead.
Going off of what she said, I just have this nagging thought in my head. But with my kids, I'm thinking about this, even just this morning. Like, my kids get themselves stressed, and they're young, 6, 4, and obviously my 1-year-old doesn't, but my 4-year-old, she got herself dressed, and she totally didn't match. And so I'm like, oh, you can't wear that because it doesn't match. You know, so I'm kind of teaching her now. I'm thinking that, no, I have to look good and I have to match. And so, like,
because matching means what to you?
That you look, people aren't going to be judging me. And
Right.
Like, oh, what a bad mom because
You can't match
look at how
socks,
her
you can't
daughter
match,
is dressed,
blacks
you know,
don't go
so-
with blues, never, don't do that, right?
So what do we do about it, you know, like, so it doesn't drive me crazy if they don't match and just say, okay, if you want to wear that, you can wear that.
Yeah, let me do
You
it.
start not matching too. Look at me.
You know,
See,
I don't want to
here-
teach them that, you know, that people are judging what you're wearing, you know, because they're girls and
Yeah.
when they get older, it's going to be, you know.
See, here, and I'm not going to answer that question about what you do. I think you do what Diana does and you stay in the moment. But here's the other part of this question is, if we realized how little other people are thinking of us, we wouldn't care how much, or we wouldn't try to care what they're thinking about us, because they never are, because they're so busy with their own thoughts and how, oh man, I'm never thinking of Ashley and how, is this going to go with this, and should I have worn tennis shoes today, and is Ashley going to like that, and is Erica going to be okay with this? Because, and they shouldn't think the same thing about their hat, because I'm so busy thinking about my own stuff. Nobody's walking around going, man, Erica, you should really take better care of yourself.
I stink.
No, it's you're looking a little pudgy around here, you know, and you're a runner. You know how to take care of your. Why don't you? Nobody's doing that. They're so consumed with their own thoughts, right? That they're never thinking of you. And even if they were, you'd have no idea.
I guess what
continues to come to my mind is Maggie didn't like the chocolate. You think I'm pudgy, or her teacher thinks she's the worst person, or the greatest person for letting her kid wear whatever. But in my mind, what comes is, so what though? If somebody doesn't like chocolate, so what? And if you think I'm pudgy, okay. And to me, is why do we fear those thoughts? Why do we fear that somebody can be individual and think what they think?
Exactly.
Why do we fear that so much and let it drive our actions and our emotions?
Exactly. That is the most enlightened question to ask. Why in the world would we care?
Okay, I don't mean to be devil's advocate. I always feel like I'm
Go
like
for it.
the other side, but I agree with you. But I'm
Because
trying to
this
understand
is,
from-
you've talked about this with your mom, huh? What other class do people talk with their moms about?
So
No, it's good that you do.
I totally agree. Just like the so what, as long as I like what I'm wearing or what I'm doing, that's ultimately what matters. But at the same time, you have social norms, and like, for example, like if you're going to a job interview, it's probably appropriate to match, and so there's sometimes where you do, or maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, where you do have to care what other people are thinking, and how does this play into like consideration of other people's feelings? Because if you're going around all the time, like, I don't care what you think, like, type thing, well, you could really hurt people's feelings. If, do you know what I mean? Maybe you've taken to
Wait,
extreme.
time out. Okay, so
Okay,
same as
they
what I
can
did
choose
with
to be
Jason
hurt. They
the other
can choose
day.
to be hurt, but still, you can contribute to the environment. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So, like, I
because
agree
nobody
with
else
you
is
that-
enlightened like we
that
are.
you shouldn't be thinking what everybody else is thinking, and that there are a lot of fears and threats that we give to ourselves. But how do you account for some social norms that are pretty stabilized and consideration for other people? So I agree with you. I'm not trying to.
No, it's a
but I'm
terrific
just-
question.
I want to see it from all angles.
It's an absolutely terrific question, because nobody wants to be, the clown in the middle of the room that, wow, you're really weird because you, which, it's okay. I'm not as concerned about that. What do you think, Stacy?
I've always been a very blunt person growing up, always. And my mom said I needed to learn tact, and I told her that I was just expressing how I felt. But then my dad kind of sat me down and he said that there's a difference between being tactful and speaking your mind. And so you just have to learn. You don't just go out and say someone's ugly. You can think it. You don't have to let them know. And then also another thing that they always taught me was that offense is taken, never given. And so even though I, compliment you or make a comment to you, I don't mean to offend you.
Yeah, and rarely does anyone.
Right.
Which is true,
So-
which I agree. But not everybody in the world is walking around thinking, oh, I own my feelings. I choose how I
No,
feel.
you're right.
I hope that's how people
You're
are.
right.
But they're not. And so in some sense, I think you have to consider consideration for other people. And so I'm just wondering where that.
Yeah.
At the same time, you can't go around worrying about everyone else.
Definitely, yeah, and I agree
So
with
you
that
just
too.
have to do the best that you can.
What do you think?
Well, I think you brought up a really good point.
It's a terrific question.
Because there are times where, like a job interview, I'm not going to be like using profound language and dressing down if I want to have that job. But I think still, no matter what we're thinking, and if we're trying to be considerate of other people's feelings, we still don't have to be driven by fear to make our decisions of how we will behave or speak. And so I think we can definitely take that into account in certain circumstances. But again, we don't have to be driven by fear, but rather maybe consideration of just the setting and what might be appropriate.
When you're next to speak, have you ever been next? Or pre-game stuff, or asking somebody out on a date, or asking for the job interview, or just going to the hospital and visiting somebody who's sick. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're talking about here. See, those kind of things that you're saying, I tend to agree with you that we have to have some decorum, some sense of, okay, everyone's living this lie, this illusion, I can live with it. Not make a big deal about it, that we have to dress the same. that we have to wear ties when we go to meetings, that we have to, we're all living it, don't make a big deal out of it. That's not what concerns me, because I agree with you. And I wouldn't want to, I don't intentionally do things that are against the norm.
Rebellious.
Right. I don't consciously try to do that, saying, well, I'm choosing to be my own way. Because I don't need to do that. But what I am worried about, what does concern me far more, is when we are letting those thoughts get in the way of things we want. When we're letting, oh man, I know when you're next, and you're thinking about all the things, I have to give this piano solo in 2 weeks in a church meeting. And already I'm making up in my mind, because it's a really hard piece and I haven't taken the time to practice, and already I'm making up in my mind, man, I know I'm going to make mistakes. And I'm thinking they're just going to laugh at me or whatever because of the mistakes I'm going to make. So I'm thinking I better not. I'm just going to tell them I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. And I catch myself going, I'm totally creating those ideas of they're going to whatever about me. And I think, okay, well, I can't know. And actually, in my mind, my next thought was, oh, 95% of the people in here couldn't do this anyway. So if you want to come and do a better job, come on up here, kind of thing. I mean, we can change how we're thinking about it that takes that out of the thought.
Just a point with this question and kind of like the learned, I need to worry about if I'm not sure, but how much of that is taught by others around you?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think a lot of it comes with the body image and am I fat, am I skinny? I think that's taught too, but my point or question to point out would be that a lot of it's pessimistic and it's from a negative standpoint of the things that we're worried, and I guess that's where the fear comes about it, is we're worried about what people are thinking about us in a negative light instead of a positive, because if it was me in the audience and you're playing your piano piece or whatever, I'd be, that is so cool that, that sounded so great and that he's done all that and I shouldn't have quit 3 years into piano and I'm never going to be able to do that, It wouldn't be from a negative, it would be more of a positive, way to try, and that's what most people are going to be thinking.
Exactly.
But we don't think that about ourselves.
You're exactly right. We always think that people think the worst of us, and that's what we dwell on.
I have a sister who it eats her alive almost. Like every day she comes home from school, it's what did so-and-so think about me, about this? Last year their lockers are like the half lockers and there's one above and one below. And she was underneath getting something out and a boy, and she won't talk to boys. She's just she's so stressed and worked up about every little thing. And she came up and he hit her in the head with his locker and she felt so bad and she wouldn't even look at him or say anything, and she just walked away. And then the next day she accidentally smashed his fingers in her locker or something, and she would not look at him she could not even because of what he must have thought of her, and I'm sure he didn't think anything.
No.
It was we try to get her to laugh about it, but I don't know.
And she's no different than the rest of us in most instances, huh?
I was going to say, kind of on a social conditioning, why we start thinking, what will they think, is peer pressure. As an example, going back to chocolate, I don't like any kind of chocolate. I say that with a slight caveat, it's high quality chocolate. If it's high quality, it's okay. Can't stand Hershey's, can't stand. If I say that to people, you would not believe the peer pressure of, you've got to try this chocolate, which is a hint to those of you who like chocolate, say you don't, you'll get all the free chocolate you want. Because, I make a comment to people, and if, somebody will offer me, I'm like, no thanks, I don't like chocolate. You don't like, you've got to try this though, because it's it's this huge thing because I'm stepping out of the norm, a lot of peer pressure. And so you just kind of get conditioned as you're growing up. I have to be careful on what I say.
Absolutely. It has to be conditioning because our natural self does not instantly go here. Our highest self does not instantly go here. It has to be conditioning. It has to be, wow, this is how I've been thinking since I was in 1st grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade. And every time we think that thought and we include the possibility that there's going to be some pain, then it stops us from going after those things that we want. Or the things we feel like we ought to be doing. Or it turns on the stress response if nothing else. Oh, jeez. Body hears, uh-oh, stress response. I just did this morning. I was meditating, actually. And while I was meditating, I started to have some thoughts popped in there about a relationship I'm having with a colleague, with a peer. And I'm trying to really improve it in some certain ways. And I started thinking about I started making up how I thought this person would respond if I did something. And I could immediately feel, and you know, when you meditate, you're so chill, as Reed would say. I never knew that word was a adjective. Chill. And as soon as I started thinking about what this person might think about this, I could immediately tell my physiology was changing. And I caught myself, whoa, wait a sec. What that thought led to that immediate tense, not chill. And I went, oh, okay, change that thought. Okay, good. Whew. Is that an interesting idea?
I don't know if it really counts or not, but
It all counts.
what if you do know how somebody is going to respond, and you are afraid?
Well, like what? Give me an example.
So, like, say I know a lady who is divorced and she has a problem with her ex coming to get her kids and that they need to be bathed. And so every time she brings it up, it's in a negative, angry response.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows that reaction is coming. Is that kind of where you're going? Okay.
Yeah, so it goes back to your thing. We have to understand we live in a culture, and don't take this the wrong way. Please don't take this the wrong way. We live in a culture where most people don't get out of their adolescence emotionally. Most people never make it out. Most people are adults still living in their adolescence emotionally and the way they think. And the way they think as adolescents primarily happened because when they were between 1 and 7 or 8, they were just taking in everything. Everything was downloading. And so everything that came to them, they accepted as this must be how things are. And in adolescence, they can't help it. And they never come out of that. See, this is the thing that I have come to decide with that question, with your question, is people can't help it. Unless they've figured it out, you know, being in charge of their own feelings, which nobody does, they can't help it. And as soon as I think that thought, I'm okay with everybody. It's the most amazing thing. they can't help it. They're still 14. I was talking with somebody, I don't know, was it in here? They were talking about, oh no, it was yesterday at the conference. I went to a conference yesterday and we were talking about this a little, and somebody said in the teenage years, primarily junior high years, are the roughest for emotions, right? Everyone's, oh no, it was I'm sorry, it was the thing on Wednesday I did at the Davis School District. I worked with all the counselors there, all the counselors for the Davis School District, and they said, man, you have no idea how, they called it girl drama or something like that. They said it's absolutely worst in their junior high years. And it occurred to me, most people never get out of it. And so when you do encounter that, we get it, but they don't. And you can't change them, so you accept them. This is how you are. I'm still choosing to think this way, but I'm going to let you still be your teenager or your 8-year-old, because you can't help it. And watch how that changes how you can accept people differently. As soon as I started thinking that, and this happened quite some time ago, but it keeps reinforcing for me because I keep wondering why I have problems, challenges with people. And it always comes back to I'm not accepting them as they are. And as soon as I decided, I can't help it. There's nothing they can do about it until they take this class or read one of our books or something that changes them to an adult way of thinking, an enlightened way of thinking. They're stuck because they're just running programs from when they were younger. And so you just love them. Say, that's nothing I can do about the fact that he does that. Accept him, and then you choose how you're going to respond.
I think a gift you can give yourself too is to be able to laugh or to be able to see, the flip side of it, or just not like laugh, like make fun of yourself, but just laugh at the situation or be able to move on and not take it with you, because then everything is in the moment and it is what it is. And you can move forward. You can improve if you need to. You can leave it behind and forget about it if you need to. Just take the best things that you can to take with you and leave the rest behind.
It's not so serious.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing, the final thing that I want to leave with you. As you were saying that, this is what popped into my head. I'm thinking of my 4-year-old. I don't really concern myself a whole lot about what he thinks about how I teach my class, or things I say at home, or when we go out and play sports. We do a lot of sports at our house, and he loves being in there, and I don't really concern myself about how he thinks about it. And if everyone outside of this class is still thinking at those levels, why would I care? So don't even think about it. Don't even let it. Still, being culturally aware and being sensitive to, well, I don't want to look like a rebel or lend any attention to myself. That would be dumb. But I don't have to focus on I don't have to concern myself about their judgments, because they're too busy in their own minds with their own worlds. They're not judging me. And if they were, they don't know me anyway. They can't possibly know. They can't possibly accurately judge me. And if that's the case, then big deal what they think. Is that an amazingly freeing thought? I just think that's one of the most, as I've been working this through, just makes me think, you know, we're all a bunch of kids running around. And kids don't get, I mean, little kids, childlike. Let's enjoy that instead of, oh man, I got to play the piano and oh, it's going to be so hard. When I play it at home, it's no big deal. But why wouldn't it be that way when I'm in front of 300 people? But I make it up to be, and that's all it is what I've made up. Check that out and watch what happens as you run this through your head and talk it over with your family and friends. Just kind of work it through your own mind. This is really, it's a hard thing. We want it to be. One of the most freeing thoughts that I know is you don't need that. It's not at all what I was planning to do today. So, yeah, feel free to judge, and I won't notice. So, what I think I'd like to do is postpone the As Men Think until Wednesday, because I do want to spend one more day on what I was planning to do today. If that's okay with you guys, and even if it isn't, then get over it. Taylor, are you okay with this, knowing what's going to happen? Okay. Okay, so have a great weekend, everyone.